Now that we've constructed equations, we're going to learn how to deconstruct equations. So in this video, we're going to look at the deconstruction process and solving equations. So we will learn to deconstruct or reverse this process to solve equations. And we have a table here, and this will show you how you reverse a process performed on a variable or expression. But simply put, what this is telling us is that if you need to reverse addition, you subtract. Okay? So if you add 3 to get back to where you started, you would subtract 3. If you need to reverse subtraction, you're going to add. If you need to reverse multiplication, you divide. And to reverse division, you multiply. And one last one, and I'll show you why this works. To reverse reciprocating, you actually reciprocate again. So let's see why. If we started with, so the example we used for reciprocating was 2/3, and when we reciprocated, we reversed the numerator and denominator, and we got 3/2. Now if we want to get back to 2/3, we'd reciprocate again. Let's mark these arrows with little r's so we know what that means. We put the 2 back in the numerator and the 3 back in the denominator. So let's get started. Complete the columns in the tables for deconstructing and solve the equation, then check your result. So let's look at the first one. So these are the problems we did in the last video, and I have the construction written out. So let's start by writing some shorthand for this construction. First, we multiplied by 3, so I'm going to put dot 3 for multiplied by 3. Then we increased by 1, so I'm going to put plus 1, and the result is 5. So equals 5. So now we're going to deconstruct this process, meaning we're going to start with a 5, and we're going to work our way back to x to find what x is going to be equal to, or solve for x. But when we work our way back, we have to reverse all of these processes to get back to where we started. So our first step is 5. Well, we had increased by 1, so we're going to decrease. So 5 is decreased by 1. Now since we decreased, this is a difference. So now the difference is, well, we had multiplied by 3, so we're going to reverse that and divide by 3. So the difference is divided by 3. And our result is x. So now let's use this deconstruction flow to write what x is. So 5 is decreased by 1, so we have 5 minus 1. Now we're going to take that difference and divide it by 3. So I'm going to put the fraction bar, so the entire difference, 5 minus 1, is written over 3. And our result is equal to x. Okay. So now we'll perform these operations. There's just one we're going to perform. So 5 minus 1 is 4. And we have 4/3 equals x. Okay. So we could write this as a decimal, but in general, we don't even write these as mixed numbers unless it's an application problem. We're happy with our result being written as the fraction 4/3. So let's check our results. So I'm going to go to our original equation, and on the left-hand side, I'm going to replace x with 4/3 and evaluate. And if our answer is correct, when we're done, we should get a result of 5. So 3 times replace x with 4/3 plus 1. Now I'm going to write a string of equivalent equations until I've simplified it. Notice that the 3's here cancel, so I would multiply 3 times 4/3. You can do this on your calculator, but I'm going to show you some of these computations to refresh your memory. The 3's cancel. Okay. So this is equal to 4 plus 1, which is equal to 5. And since the right-hand side of this equation is 5, our solution checks. Let's look at the next one. So let's put our shorthand like we did here. So we decreased by 2. We multiplied by 4. then we increased by 12, and the result was 8. Okay. So now we're going to start with 8, reverse this process to get back to x. So 8, well, we had increased by 12, so we're going to decrease. So 8 is decreased by 12. Then this is a difference, so the difference instead of multiplying by 4, we're going to divide by 4. Then this result was a quotient, and then the quotient is, well, we had subtracted 2, so we're going to add 2, so the quotient is increased by 2. So the result is x. So it brings us back to our result of x. So now let's write this expression out. So we have 8 is decreased by 12, so that's 8 minus 12. The difference is divided by 4, so we'll take the entire difference, divide it by 4. The quotient is increased by 2, so this is our quotient. We'll add 2. And the result is x, so this equals x. Okay. Now let's perform these operations so we can get a simplified answer. So first, by the order of operations, I need to do the subtraction in the numerator. So we have 8 minus 12 is negative 4 over 4 plus 2 equals, now negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1 plus 2. And negative 1 plus 2 is positive 1. I'm just going to write again here, this equals x. So our solution for x is 1. So let's go and check it. So I'm going to evaluate the left-hand side for x equals 1, and if this is truly the solution, it should simplify to 8. So we have 4 parentheses 1 minus 2 plus 12. Okay. First we perform the parentheses. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So 4 times negative 1 plus 12. Then we multiply. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. So we have negative 4 plus 12. And then we add negative 4 plus 12 is 8. Okay. So our solution checks. Okay. And let's just take a moment to see how this progressed. Okay. So notice when we put 1 in, we decreased it by 2. So there's the 1 minus 2 to get negative 1. We took our difference, multiplied by 4. Okay, that gave us negative 4. We took the product of negative 4 and added 12. That gave us 8. And that was our result. Okay, so by taking the construction equation and deconstructing it using the reverse process, we got the solution for x that makes the equation true. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, so let's write shorthand for these. So decreased by 5, a little low on room here. I'm going to write these on the left. Decreased by 5, divided by 2. This is multiplied by 4, increased by 6, and the result equals 18. Okay. So now let's deconstruct by starting with 18 and reversing the processes until we get back to x. So our first step is 18. Instead of increasing by 6, we'll decrease by 6. 18 is decreased by 6. That is a difference, so we'll write the difference is, well, we had multiplied by 4, so we're going to divide by 4. The difference is divided by 4. Now our last answer was a quotient, so the quotient is, Now we had divided by 2, so we're going to multiply by 2. Is multiplied by 2. And then the next step, we had decreased by 5, so we're going to increase by 5. And this was a product, so the product is increased by 5. And the result is x. So this brings us back to x. Okay. So this is a lot of steps, okay? And if there's too many steps or if it gets too complicated, you can always do the operations one at a time, but let's see if we can write this without it getting too messy. So 18 is decreased by 6, so 18 minus 6. The difference is divided by 4, so I'm going to divide that difference by 4. The quotient is multiplied by 2, so I'm going to take this whole quotient, multiply it by 2. The product is increased by 5, so this is our product. I'm going to increase it by 5, and the result is x. So that wasn't too bad. Okay. Typically, if we were going to multiply an expression like this by 2, we'd put the 2 out front, but that's okay. This is the structure, so we're going to keep it like this. So first, we perform the parentheses. I'm going to do this subtraction first, and I'm going to do it right in here. 18 minus 6 is 12, just to save a little bit of room. So that's our first step. Okay. Next step is this division. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. So now we have 3 times 2 plus 5 equals x. Next we need to multiply. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 5. And 6 plus 5 is 11. So our result is that the solution of this equation is 11. Let's check it by replacing x with 11 in the left-hand side of the equation and evaluating. So 4 times 11 minus 5 over 2 plus 6. So 11 minus 5, again I'm going to do this right here, is 6. Okay. So now we have 4 times 6 over 2. So I did the subtraction. Now we could do the multiplication or division. First it's easier just to divide first. We could cancel out the factor of 2, and that's acceptable as well. But 6 over 2 is 3. So 4 times 3 plus 6. 4 times 3 is 12. And 12 plus 6 is 18. And notice that corresponds to the right-hand side of the equation, so our solution checks. Okay. And we will work on the next 3 questions in the next video.